It's our party, we can do what we want. It's our party, we can say what we want. It's our party, we can love what we want. We can kiss who we want, we can screw what we want. It's our party, we can do what we want. It's our party, we can say what we want. It's our party, we can love what we want. We can kiss who we want, we can screw what we want.
Red cousins, sweaty bodies everywhere. Hands in the air like we don't care. Cause we came to have so much fun now. That somebody here might get some now. If you're not ready to go home, can I get a hell no? Cause we gonna go all night till we see the sunlight. Alright. So la-da-dee-da-dee, we like to party. Dancing with Molly, doing whatever we want. This is our house, this is our rules, and we can't stop, and we won't stop. Can't you see it's we who own the night? Can't you see it's we who found that light? We can't stop, and we won't stop. We run things, things don't run me. We don't take nothing from nobody. Yeah, yeah.
It's our party, we can do what we want. It's our party, we can say what we want. It's our party, we can love what we want. We can kiss who we want, we can screw what we want.
To my homegirls here with the big butt, shaking it like we at a strip club. Remember, only God could judge ya. Forget the haters, cause somebody loves ya. And everyone in line in the bathroom, trying to get a line in the bathroom. We all so turned up here, getting turned up, yeah, 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 yeah. So la-da-dee-da-dee, we like to party, dancing with Molly, doing whatever we want. This is our house, this is our rules, and we can't stop, and we won't stop. Can't you see it's we who own the night? Can't you see it's we who found that light? And we can't stop, and we won't stop. We run things, things don't run me. We don't take nothing from nobody. Yeah, yeah.
It's our party, we can do what we want. It's our party, we can say what we want. It's our party, we can love what we want. We can kiss who we want, we can screw what we want.
It's our party, we can do what we want to. It's our house, we can love who we want to. It's our song, we can sing if we want to. It's my mouth, I can say what I want to. Yeah, 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 yeah. And we can't stop, and we won't stop. Can't you see it's we who own the night? Can't you see it's we who found the light? We can't stop, and we won't stop. We're on TV.
Hello, sa mo na? Na.
Baroque Rococo.
Kanabang sa GMD.
Ah, basin sa tigas barangay na.
Baroque was 17th century.
Baroque and... No, dili na ko kabisado.
Asli.
Ikaw na Silya. Ha?
I don't know.
Baroque ang chundok ha.
Why?
Karakter na sa... What?
Ang mga balaan, Baroque, may dyan man na ipuan.
Oh, kala...
Asam na nga uwan. Dito na.
Anything?
None.
So... Sige.
Baroque? Si Baroque at tutot. Hindi ko baluan na naman.
Rococo is named after Baroque and on 18th century, and it was popular among buildings and other decorations.
Sige, sige.
Thank you,
Thank
bye.
you.
Bye na lang mo. Bye-bye.
Sige, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Baby, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Sige, bye-bye.
To give you some ideas and information about
Baroque and Rococo period.
we present to you the
Baroque is a period of artistic style that used exaggerated motion and clear, easily interpreted details to produce drama, tension, exuberance, and grandeur in sculpture, painting, architecture, literature, dance, and music. The style began around 600 in Rome, Italy, and spread to the most of Europe. The popularity and success of the Baroque style was encouraged by the Roman Catholic Church, which had decided at the time of the Council of Trent, in response to the Protestant Reformation, that the arts should communicate religious themes in a direct and emotional involvement.
Rococo, also known as late Baroque, is an 18th century artistic movement and style which affected several aspects of the arts, including painting, sculpture, architecture, interior design, literature, music, and theater. It was developed in France, in Paris, as a reaction to the grandeur, symmetry, and strict regulations of the Baroque, especially that of the Palace of Versailles. 1715, the French had greeted a new king for the first time in 72 years, Louis XV. A boy only 5 years old succeeded his great-grandfather, Louis XIV, the Sun King who made France the permanent power in Europe. France turned away from imperial aspirations to focus on more personal, pleasurable pursuits. The change was mirrored by the new style and art, one that was intimate, decorative, and often erotic. It is where the Rococo had begun.
Papoy? Akala na papoy? No. Papoy. Ha! Papoy!
Baroque music is a style of Western art music composed from approximately 1600 to 1750. This era followed the Renaissance and was followed soon by the Classical era. The word Baroque comes from the word Portuguese barroco, meaning misshapen pearl, a negative description of the ornament and heavily ornamented music of this period. The Baroque period saw the creation of tonality. During the period, composers and performers used more elaborate musical ornamentation, made changes in musical notation, and developed the instrumental playing techniques. Some of the composers of Baroque period: first, Johann Sebastian Bach, George Frederick Handel, Alessandro Scarlatti, Domenico Scarlatti, Antonio Vivaldi. Tonality is a system system or language of music in which specific pitch relationships are based on the key, center, and the root of the tonic trade, and that is on relationships between roots of triads. A Rococo period existed in the music history, although it is not as well known as the earlier Baroque or later classical forms. The Rococo music style is itself developed out of the Baroque music both in France, where the new style was referred to as a style galante or gallant or elegant style. Galante music is a new classical music, fashionable from 1720s to 1770s. It consciously simplified contrapuntal texture and intense composing techniques that realized a pattern on the page and substituted a clear leading voice with a transparent accompaniment. Ornament in music, ornaments or embellishments are musical flourishments that are necessary to carry the overall line of the melody or harmony, but serve instead to decorate or ornament that line.
In different artistic modes: furniture and decorative objects, interior design, painting, figures, and sculpture. Furniture and decorative objects, the light-hearted things and intricate designs of Rococo, presented themselves best on a smaller scale than the imposing Baroque architecture and sculpture. It is not surprising, then, that French Rococo art was at home indoors. Metalwork, porcelain figures, and especially furniture rose to new preeminence as the French upper classes sought to outfit their homes in now fashionable style. French designers like Francois de Covilly, Nicolas Benoit, and Bartholomew Rastrelli exported Parisian styles in person to Munich and St. Petersburg. North side of the Catherine Palace at Tsarskoye Selo carriage courtyard, all the stucco details sparkled with gold until 1773, when Catherine II had gilding replaced with olive drab paint. Painting. Pilgrimage to Cetera by Jean-Antoine Watteau captures the frivolity and sensuousness of Rococo painting, developed first in the decorative arts and interior design, and its influence later spread to architecture, sculpture, interior design, painting, and music. Rococo style is characterized by elaborate ornamentation, asymmetrical values, pastel color palette, and curved or serpentine lines. Rococo sculpture makes use of very delicate porcelain instead of marble or another heavy metal. Figures. Image of Blonde Obelisk by Francois Boucher. Blonde Obelisk by Francois Boucher was a highly controversial work by him. Francois Boucher became a master of Rococo painting somewhat later than Watteau. His work exemplifies many of the same characteristics, though with a slightly more mischievous and suggestive tone. Boucher had an illustrious career and became court painter to King Louis in 1765. There was controversy later in his career as Boucher underwent some moral criticism from people such as Diderot, for the themes present in his work. The Blonde Obelisk was particularly controversial as it supposedly illustrated the extramarital affairs of the king. In sculpture, the work of Etienne Maurice Fauconnet is widely considered to be the best representative of Rococo style. Generally, Rococo sculpture makes use of very delicate porcelain instead of marble or another heavy medium. Fauconnet was the director of a famous porcelain factory at Sèvres. The prevalent themes in Rococo sculpture echoed those of other mediums with the distinct of classical themes. Sculpture was another area that Rococo artists branched into. Etienne Maurice Fauconnet is widely considered one of the best representatives of French Rococo. In general, this style is best expressed through delicate porcelain sculpture rather than imposing marble statues. Falconet himself was director of a famous porcelain factory at Sevres. The themes of love and gaiety were reflected in sculpture, as were elements of nature, curved lines, and asymmetry. The last Baroque period. The following are the great famous painters of this period. El Greco, born as Domenicus Theotocopoulos, was a painter, sculptor, and architect of the Spanish Renaissance. Annibal Carracci was an Italian Baroque painter. Annibal Carracci was born in Bologna and in all likelihood first apprenticed within his family. Sir Peter Paul Rubens was a Flemish Baroque painter and a proponent of an extravagant Baroque style that emphasized movement, color, and sensuality. Frans Hals the Elder was a Dutch golden painter. He is notable for his loose painterly brushwork. Artemisia Gentileschi was an Italian Baroque painter, today considered one of the most accomplished painters in the generation after Caravaggio. In an era when women painters were not easily accepted by the artistic community or patrons, she was the first female painter to become a member of the Accademia di Arte del Disegno in Florence.
After the Renaissance period, the architects of the era started to get bored with the symmetry and same-old forms they had been using for the last 200 years. It was about the end of the High Renaissance that the buildings started to get a new look.
The two main architects of Baroque era were Bernini and Brunini. Bernini's first medium was sculpture, so he liked to incorporate lots of it in his buildings. Francisco Bernini was very different from Bernini, a sculptor and a mason. They went to train to move in 1614 under Carlo Maderna and Bernini. For 2 centuries after, it was considered deranged, and thus the word Baroque was given to this period because it means abnormal.
The most distinct shape of the Baroque style is the use of the oval. It appeared in many churches and was very characteristic of the time. The architects liked to interlace many ovals to create large spaces that were different from just a plain old circle. The domes on many of these churches were oval shaped, but on some they were circular. This posed a problem because many ceiling spaces were oval shaped. To accomplish putting a circular dome on an oval space, the architect had to use very strange angles, but it did create a space for sculptures and paintings. Rococo was the last phase of Baroque painting. It was light-hearted, the curvy style invented to the people of Paris. Rococo got its name from Rocaille, R-O-C-A-I-L-L-E, which means rocks and shells. I think that they were trying to say that the Rococo style of architecture was supposed to indicate the natural forms of its decoration: tree branches, seashells, surf, coral, seaweed, spray, and scroll. One of the main characteristics of Rococo style was the rooms that were meant to have music played in.
Many of the rooms became simple, rectangular, with rounded corners. Also, something that appeared in almost every Rococo style was the presence of highly ornate sculpture and lots of gold. It was everywhere in the windows, sills, in the walls, in the drapes, over the door, and a whole lot of other places. It was during the Rococo style that the term French window came into use. Also, mirrors were in Rococo style. Cricket, the oldest documents the very word cricket with a description of the modern game is the set of rules registered by Isaac Spratt. In November 1856, with the Stationers' Company in London, the ancestral game was introduced to Britain from France during the reign of Charles II of England, and was played under the name of Paley, Melee, or Pall Mall, derived ultimately from Latin words for ball and Malay. This was explanation given in the 19th edition of Encyclopedia Britannica, dated 1877. In his 1810 book, The Sports and Pastimes of the People of England, Joseph Scott describes the way Pall Mall was played in England in the early 17th century. Pall Mall is a game wherein a round box ball is struck with a mallet through a high arc of iron, which that can do at the fewest blows, or at the number agreed upon. B. It is to be observed that there are two of these arches. That is one of either end of the alley. The game of mall was a fashionable amusement in the reign of Charles II and the walk in St. James Park, now called the Mall, received its name from having been appropriated to the purpose of playing mall, where Charles himself and his courtiers frequently exercised themselves in the practice of this pastime.
Fencing is a sport of fighting with swords. In the 17th century, we used the term Baroque sword to describe the fencing style in the late 17th century masters such as
Campaña de Martínez and Bondes de Malva. Actions in contratempo are usually used, but only after the swords must mastered the basic 2, 10p, method, another similarity of the style with ample use of the cut as a complementary action to the first. Although the latter is still generally referred as a safer and quicker form of fence, this makes the style very dynamic and the actions interesting and diverse.
pedagogically, we find Baroque sword to be an excellent place to start one's rapier studies. This style is forgiving to the learner while still being tough on the opponent. Also, the way the texts are structured is almost proto-classical, resulting in perhaps less arcane to the average modern student.
Ringen. Ringen is a German language term for grappling or wrestling. In the context of the German school of historical European martial arts during the late Middle Ages and the German Renaissance, Ringen refers to an armed combat, in general including grappling techniques used as part of swordsmanship.
Ringen is a form of combat sport involving grappling. Type techniques such as clinch fighting, throws, and takedowns, joint locks, pins, and other grappling holds.
Held in Germany, was prized the Holy Spirit in Lviv, one of the world's oldest social institutions and a precursor to modern hospitals. Germany has the world's oldest universal healthcare system dating back to Bismarck's social legislation in 1883. Currently, the population is covered by a fairly comprehensive health insurance plan provided by statute. Certain groups of people, which are lifetime officials, self-employed persons, employees with high income, can opt out of the plan and switch to a private insurance contract. Previously, these groups could also choose to do without insurance, but this option was dropped in 2009. According to the World Health Organization, Germany's healthcare system was 77% government-funded and 23% privately funded as of 2005. In 2005, Germany spent 11% of its GDP on healthcare. Germany ranked 28th in the world in life expectancy with 77 years old for men and 82 years for women, and it had a very low infant mortality rate, 4 per 1,000 live births. In 2010, the principal cause of death was cardiovascular disease at 41%, followed by malignant tumors at 26%. In 2008, about 82% of Germans had been infected with HIV/AIDS, and 26,000 had died from the disease. According to a 2005 survey, 27% of German adults are smokers. Health in France. The French healthcare system was ranked first worldwide by the World Health Organization in 1997, and then again in 2000. Care is generally free for people affected by chronic diseases. Affections belongs to such as cancer, AIDS, or cystic fibrosis. Average life expectancy at birth is 78 years old for men and 85 years for women, one of the highest of the European Union. There are 3.22 physicians for every 1,000 inhabitants in France, and average healthcare spending per capita was $4,799 in 2008. As of 2007, approximately 140,000 inhabitants, or 0.4% of France, are living with HIV/AIDS.
Three, two, one, go.
Yung kakaw.
Image of a valid
Sige.
Sheet music in which specific hierarchical ano po na
of itin Baroque Rococo.
Sige lang.
To give you brief information about
Baroque Rococo from approximately 1600.
Sabi pa nila word.
Detail.
Music is sipon sa ako be.
very better, careful.
Baroque music is a style of Western art. Oh! That is so... Okay, relax. This, a beacon. A beacon.
Yeah! Ay, sa tingog ka dyan.
Contrapuntal texture and intense composing.
Ayaw niya, kaya ba?
Narata?
During the period, composers and performers used more elaborate musical... Okay.
Balik.
The first time in 72 years. No. Ayoko. Taray. Ano? Gus, Gus! Gus, Gus!
Or, sorry! I'm so sorry. Sige, 3. Rococo. Ay, lagi ka ba? Approximately 1600